Tonight on the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Star Trek Picard, giving a little season 1 wrap up, giving our thoughts on, I don't even know what to say there. I'm just...
Well, I think you said it. Season 1 wrap up, some news, whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Star Trek, guys. Mostly Star Trek Picard, because, you know, it is of the moment. And that's what we do around here.
It is of our time.
We're on the razor's edge of this moment in time. We are but butterflies. But are we truly butterflies if we never die? I don't know, man. All that right after this.
My man boob hurts.
Insert non sequitur. Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
David C. Robertson, it's good to chat with you, my friend. We didn't chat last week because
We didn't.
I dove into some crazy work stuff.
Right.
And, you know, I find that I'm working harder in my lack of work than I work when I'm working. if that makes any sense.
It does. I am possibly very ADHD, so like I have spent a lot of time just wandering around my house, starting projects and then getting sidetracked by things. Mm-hmm. So like I just sort of have like patches of things. Like I have like Star Trek models kind of out and about and some paint and then a puzzle that I'm gluing.
Nice.
And just like random things like, things for, you know, podcast work and a Chuck Palahniuk book I'm reading, you know, just lots of like weird little things that I'm just like, I need to get back to that. I need to get back to that.
Yeah. I am finally making progress on my to-do list and getting it knocked down a little bit. And it's amazing that it took COVID-19 and me having like 4 weeks off and I'm still just barely starting to move the wheel. You know what I mean? My to-do list has been so insane for so long. And honestly, a lot of it was doing all these Star Trek songs. That was a lot of time. And it was like, you know, basically 2 full days every week. 1 day to write, 1 day to record. Well, and then another day to mix. So it was basically like 2 or 3 days a week I was working on that. It's just, I'm excited to take my songwriting down to every other week, which is kind of my game plan now. But this was a really good intensive 20 songs in a row in about 20 weeks, you know?
No, I think you should continue. Like anything you watch, you should write a song about it.
Dude, don't even tease me. I've watched so many things and been like, well, there's a hook there. Because now it's it's how I'm watching things now is like how it inspires me and really trying to think that way. And it's good, but man, if I don't record it, here's kind of my game plan is to write more than I'm recording. So like this was a great experience because I wrote and recorded 20 songs, but like now that I'm going to slow down, which by the way, the 20th will be on the end of this episode. Woo! I haven't finished recording it yet, but I'm going to do that tomorrow before I edit this thing.
Little peek behind the curtain there.
Little peek behind the drapes.
Yeah, man.
But man, getting 20 songs recorded makes me feel good about the recording process, but I've actually gotten to where I can write a song confidently way faster than obviously the recording process was like, you know, 3/4 of the time I was spending. So if I just want to write, I can sit down and just write a song and then kind of use my demos and be like, which one do I really love? And then just decide to write that one, you know?
Yeah.
So
of course.
I'm excited to dive into all it and do more with a little less structure. Hopefully I will be able to do more with less structure because I think the structure helped me stay on task for sure.
Yeah. You definitely don't want to get to a point where you're just the Family Guy version of Randy Newman who just sings about everything he sees.
No, that's me. That is me. That is currently me. All right. Well, let's talk about season 1 of Picard. How about it?
I'm down. I'm okay with that.
We've talked about every episode individually, but let's just talk about what did you think about the series overall? What are your thoughts? Like, I know we were both a little down on that last episode and the ending, but trying to discount that, how did we feel about the like overall arcs?
Well, I'm not certain that I'm as down on that last episode anymore. Like,
I am so down on the last episode.
You still are?
Every time I talk about it, I get angry. I get like, it's bad. Alyssa has never seen me nerd out so hard as every time I try to talk about that episode. And even when I'm not trying to be angry about it, I get angry. So, please tell me what brought you to this piece, because I would love to find this inner peace that you found.
It's not Nemesis. It's better than Nemesis. It is in a lot of ways. There's a part of me that says they should have just let Data stay dead from Nemesis.
Yeah, same here. I 100% feel that way.
But that, despite the fact that I think that it is somewhat out of character for Data to just be like, nope, I know you could save me, but I want to die now. I also think, like, one, he's been stuck inside of a simulation for 20 years, and I don't know, that may have had some sort of impact on his mental state.
That's the other thing. We didn't really get a sense of what he's been doing for the last 20 years. Like, has he been just in that room? Is that it? Is that been in his existence? Then yeah, I get why he'd want to die.
I don't think it's just a room, but it is very much what he knows is it's basically he's been stuck in the Nexus with the knowledge that none of it's real.
Sure, but he's also was talking about his family, and and he knows about this family that he has spawned. Mm-hmm. And so, has he been communicating with Maddox and Sung and and his android children all this time? Because I would have liked to known that. I'm starting to get angry again. And if that's the case, if he spent the last 20 years building this new family, then in that last moment, it bothers me even more. I was bothered that Geordi and the rest of the crew of the Enterprise was not part of his little last moment where he's holding Picard's hand. Mm-hmm. But I'm even more angry when I think about the fact that he might have spent 20 years, which is like, that's probably longer than he spent on the Enterprise, or it's close.
Yeah.
With his children that are like from him on this planet. And I'm assuming since he knew about them, he knew he could interact with them to some degree. So like, how are they not around him in his final moments as well? That final moments thing just bothered the heck out of me, man. It makes me mad.
I had not really considered it, but I guess there is nothing that would say that he couldn't have been communicating with, his, quote unquote children the entire time.
Yeah.
I think that actually makes it less bothersome for me. We don't know what happened with Geordi. We don't know where he is, or for all we know, Geordi may have been in contact with Maddox.
Sure.
Because who better to talk to Maddox about the whole situation?
Yeah, my problem isn't that Geordi couldn't have ever had contact with this culture, although I find it unlikely because of their hiding. But if that Data and Geordi are basically best friends as far as I'm concerned, and it would make sense that if he's going to contact anyone, maybe he'd contact Geordi once he got spun back up. And I use Spun Back Up because I've been watching too much Altered Carbon. Great show, by the way. Really great show.
I'm not familiar.
Oh man, it's on Netflix. If you got some time on your hands, it's amazing. I
I will say this in the nicest way possible. I don't care.
Okay. I'm just telling you how great it is, and telling our listeners and we're actually doing a podcast about it right now on Bingers Assemble. So if all you guys were looking for some good sci-fi, it's gruesome. It's a very much more adult show. It's got some violence and sexuality that's pretty disturbing in places, but it is just great sci-fi.
It's one of those that people tell me I should watch it, and then a guy at work was like, "Do you watch Altered Carbon?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "And you call yourself a nerd?" And I'm like, "I've never called myself that." Mm-mm. Nerds are smart. I, sir, am an educated geek.
Well, it's a good show.
Good. Maybe I'll give it a shot one day.
They have a similar technology where they call it spinning people up in VR. They take people's brains and spin them back up. And that's what they did to Data here. And I can't imagine that they spun him up for no reason. Like, I'm sure at least Maddox was communicating with him, but I can't imagine he wouldn't be like, hey, Data, by the way, you have a planet of children. Anyway, that's all to say. I just don't, my whole point is not that he couldn't have talked to Geordi. It's that it doesn't make sense to me that Picard is the only person holding his hand at the end. You know, that's what bothers me. That whole vision of young Picard. I'm just like, screw it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I can either be angry with the show and I do sit there and go like, ugh, what could have been, but at the same time,
I hear you. And we're trying to look past this last episode. I just can't. Talking about Data, I just can't. Every time I talk about it, I get angry. It's so silly. It's so silly how angry I get. I want to like it. I really do. I'm here to love it. But there are a lot of things I loved about this season. A lot of characters I love. A lot of characters I'm really finding myself caring about, I really love Rios.
I am fine with him.
Just fine? Oh, I love him.
I don't love him yet.
Oh, man.
He's just sort of two-dimensional to me. Like, he's not all there. Like,
interesting. I don't feel that way.
Like, he's one of the problems of this season is that they try to just jam so much in there. And despite the fact that we got like a lot of episodes that felt expository, it still just didn't quite, like, certain people felt very three-dimensional to me, very well-rounded. Girardi, for instance, they did a really good job with her. They did perhaps a better job of rounding out 7 of 9 since we last saw her, in my opinion, than they did with Rios. Like, I get that he's got the dark backstory and everything, and that was fine, and I was glad we got that much.
Well, see, I don't think he's just the dark backstory. I think he had something really bad happen to him, but he's still the thing that interests me about him is the fact that he's drawn to these inspiring captains. It shows this sort of like Boy Scout under the existentialist. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to be a Boy Scout, but he's just seen too much, and he has a hard time buying into anything. And I don't know. I really liked Rios. I think he's a very well developed character for the time he's given. Obviously, this is the 10 episodes, and there's nothing going to be like, he's not going to be a Geordi to me because we saw him for 10 episodes versus whatever 7 times 20.
I might not be looking at it fairly. It might be that he was really well developed, and I'm just maybe bored with that archetype, like I'm just tired of that kind of a character. I know we compared him to some other characters, but I don't think I have seen that particular character. I mean, I guess like he's sort of a Malcolm Reynolds in that or Wes Fox was saying that he's like Wolverine, and it's just like, all right, you can give him the cigar, you can make him Mal Reynolds, you can make him Wolverine.
He looks like Wolverine, but I wouldn't say he's got the character of Wolverine. Wolverine's kind of the opposite to me. Wolverine is he definitely, like, he's got the cigar and he's got the like sort of hairy face and everything, sure, but like from a character perspective, I don't think he's Wolverine at all. I think because Wolverine's the guy who is the Boy Scout who can't help but being the Boy Scout. And I think Rios is the guy who longs to be that, but he's like seen too much. And I don't think that's Wolverine. I think Wolverine kind of pushes back against that nature. I guess they both do in a way. I don't know. It's shades of all of that.
And I don't want it to seem like I am leaning too heavily in favor of Girardi, because anyone who knows this show knows that,
you love your Allison Pill.
I love my Allison Pill.
Yeah, because I don't find her any more developed. I'm not saying she's thinly developed. I don't find her more developed than She showed more shades of herself because she was the mole. She was the one that got flipped.
Maybe he's not less developed. Maybe I'm just more bored with him. And because the most interesting thing about him so far is his relationship with her. To me.
I think you just like Alison Pill a lot. And that's nothing wrong with that.
I do.
But I don't find their relationship very interesting.
I didn't say I thought it was interesting. I just said it was the most interesting thing about him.
So far, to me, that's the most thinly developed thing about either one of them is this relationship, which I'm fine with. I really like that it's just sort of seems like a young fledgling relationship. They're not like... This is not neither of them are pining after the other one. They're in a relationship of sort of convenience. They're attracted to each other. And toward the very last episode, we got a little bit of tenderness between them. And so I just think, I just love Rios. I love and this is talking about the shades of these different characters, what we can compare him to. Like, to me, he's like Malcolm Reynolds. Sure. He's like the guy who was the Boy Scout, went through something hard, and now he's too jaded. But then you come to things like being sensitive. Most characters like Malcolm Reynolds, I think actually this entire crew is more sensitive than most sci-fi tropes, and I enjoy that. Raffi is another one I kept mentioning. Like, she seems like the badass chick lady, but then in that first episode she's really in, she's crying, and it was like, and Rios is the same way. The fact that he like really seems to fall for Girardi in a way, he really seems to feel for her, even if he doesn't feel for her like she's his forever love. He does seem to really care. And that's a thing that, like, watching Malcolm, there's a scene in Firefly where he meets the, they save the whorehouse. I forget the name of the whorehouse they're saving. The brothel that they're like saving a brothel. They get hired by a brothel to fight off a local whatever. And there's a scene where he shows his sensitive side to this madam. And it's like, and he says, "Oh, I never tell stories about myself." And see, that's not Rios. Rios, he's annoyed at people, but he is a lot more open with his emotions and with the people around him. Now, the person who isn't open with their emotions, everyone in this show, you've got Elnor, who is Mr. Absolute Candor. You've got Raffi, who's the badass warrior, but she's, and I call her a warrior because the first time we see her, she's got a gun. She's actually more of a hacker, planner type. You got Rios, and all of these characters, a lot of their archetypes would normally be a lot more stoic, but none of them are stoic at all. But then Picard, who is our way into this world, he is super stoic, but a lot less so than he used to be. And I loved the scene when he says, I love you to Raffi. Man, it was so good. It was
great.
It was like he was saying it to all of us, and I loved it so much.
I didn't get that feeling, but all right, cool.
I just loved him, like him, this man we've never really seen show his emotions on his sleeve, and he's just like, "I love you too." Like, he's just like, clearly, I love you. I'm man enough to say that now. I'm finally over my whole I have to be distant from you thing, distant from my crew. You're not my crew. You're my friends, and you're kind of my crew now. I don't know. I loved Picard in this, which brings us, I guess, to Picard. What do you think of the arc of Picard in this season?
I am great with it. The hardest pill to swallow is that once he stepped away from Starfleet, he sulked for so long. To me, it's got that feeling of,
it's become a real trope lately.
Yeah, it's Bruce Wayne in Dark Knight Rises.
Absolutely. I mean, it's even Iron Man in Endgame. It's almost everything that has a leap in time. It's like they won't let them continue to have adventures. It's like every sort of super whatever. I don't know. Every one of these genre stories, it's like every time they show a leap in time, it's like they have to go, oh, well, he took a break. That's why you haven't seen him in a while. It's like, no, he could just have lots of adventures in between. I'm fine with that. It gives me a lot to think about.
But what I like about it is that Picard, basically just admits that he was like just waiting to die. He was being selfish and sulking. You know what I mean? Like he was just kind of upfront with himself finally about it and was like, no, you know what? I'm the asshole. Let's do the right thing for once. You know, in some regard, is me being an entitled fan because, it's the same as the people who are angry that Raffi calls Picard JL, and they're like, no, you should respect him. He's Picard.
Right.
Like, we as a fan base, because we love Captain Picard, we love everything he has stood for over all these years, and then we have this great distance, this great time frame that we haven't had this character in any kind of new adventures. We sort of blow him up in our minds and we put him on a pedestal. We forget that he's a complete dick to Wesley. We forget that he's like a dick to all the children on the crew. Like, he even tells Riker in, the first episode, it's your job to make sure that I don't make an ass out of myself in front of children. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a dude who has hang-ups. He has problems. And I think it is perfectly acceptable, especially from a creative standpoint. It's incredibly important that our heroes have flaws. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to pull my own head out of my ass and stop looking at Picard from a fanboy. He has to be these paragon, of society. And like, no, this is a dude, like, he has his own issues.
Right. Well, and his giving up was part of his philosophy. Like, he was so stubborn with his being that paragon that you're talking about that he quit in protest, because he wanted to see the Federation do the right thing.
Right.
But it is still, I get it. I think it wouldn't be such a problem for me if it hadn't happened with all those other things we mentioned. And the other one I was thinking of was Luke Skywalker. There's another character that, like, we haven't seen him for a while. What's he been doing? Sitting on an island? Like, what?
Yeah, and I was fine with that. I loved Last Jedi, so.
I loved Last Jedi too, but I definitely understand. It's just that same complaint. It's like, why are our heroes not being heroes unless we're watching? Like, weirdly, like, I don't know. Does a hero still hero if there's no one in the woods to hear him? I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, but it seems like not that often these days. Okay, so yeah, I love Picard in this series. Discounting the whole robot thing, I almost just want to ignore the whole robot thing at the end. Not because I don't mind that he's a robot. I really don't. I think that could be compelling, but it felt like they went out of their way to make him a robot in name only at the end. Like,
Oh, I don't think that's what they're going to do. And
I sure
Michael
hope
Chabon
not.
says that they're going to explore what that means for Picard, and I'm a little happy that it seems like they're not going to go into the whole is it really Picard thing, because they've pretty much just said, nope, it's Picard. Like, that, just get over that.
Right.
I love, and like I said last week, last episode, I really love the idea that, we have Picard in Measure of a Man so close to the beginning of his run as Picard, making this heartfelt plea for android civil rights. Mm-hmm. And he's dealing with that all through, or intermittently through Next Generation. Then, we find out he doesn't even have a real heart. Then he gets assimilated by the Borg. And now his journey continues to the point where he was fighting for his own rights. Mm-hmm. He is an android now. I love that. He is synthetic life. And is it any different? I really do love that. And that's another thing that makes me give more of a pass to that finale, You know what I mean? Like there are things in it I definitely loved.
Yeah.
And I definitely loved it more than I liked Nemesis.
Sure. I'm not gonna say I liked it because it's better than the worst Star Trek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you saying it's better than Nemesis. And yes, I'm very glad if Picard's story ended right here, it would be better than what they did with Nemesis. And I'm with you on that. But I'm not going to judge it on the scale of like, well, it's better than the worst.
Well, I'm specifically talking mostly about Data's end. You know?
See, I don't even agree with that. I think Data's end was better in Nemesis. And like, I liked that they got a chance to have a conversation here, but like the fact that he died for something in Nemesis, and he died, as Picard says in this episode, this was one of the most Data things you could have done was to sacrifice yourself to save us. I like the way Data died. I mean, it's just a classic hero's death, you know?
Mm-hmm. And you could say that he's doing it again, though. He can't go to the golem. He can't be the golem because Picard has to be the golem. And he just wants to be a human. That
would be a thing. See, you just did a great rewrite. You did a wonderful rewrite. If that body had been for Data, mm-hmm. and it was somehow they could have like engineered it so it was the only body, like somehow Maddox was responsible mm-hmm. in some way, and like it's the only body we have that's going to work, and only one of us gets to go, and then Data decides to not take the body because he wants Picard to have it. Like that would have been meaningful, but just deciding to die, that's what bothers me.
It bothers me too. But you know what? I think I've realized in the course of this conversation that I'm okay with Geordi not being there. Because part of the whole problem with Picard is he didn't have closure. But in Nemesis, Data knew what he was about to do, and he said goodbye to Geordi. Like, he and Geordi had closure.
Yeah. See, I don't think that I don't think that Data didn't have closure. It was Picard that didn't have closure.
Yeah.
Data had closure. Data made the decision. Data went and did the thing he wanted to do to save Picard's life. It was Picard that's had all this regret. And I don't have a problem with Geordi not being there. Like, it's just a practical issue. Geordi is not in the story. It's fine. Mm-hmm. But like, my issue is just that last shot of it was pure sentimentality with no logic behind it. That last shot of Picard holding his hand as he dies, it's just pure sentimentality.
I don't think so though, because like I said, Data really got the chance to say goodbye to Geordi. He didn't really to Picard at all. And the thing about it is, Geordi was his best friend. Geordi was his best friend, but Picard was his kind of his dad.
Right. I agree with that. I just think that like if you're having your final moments, I just think he would have pictured more people. If that's what's even going on there, like I guess that's what's going on, is that he's picturing a young Picard because that's a comforting face as he dies. Mm-hmm. Like I guess that's what we're imagining happening there.
Shaban seemed to state that, the process of Data aging, and he says he thinks that Data may have experienced, several years within those moments as he was passing away, and he was experiencing aging as a human, and he was getting what he wanted.
Weird. But with no experiences, though. Like, we know that Data experiences time differently. We know that mm-hmm. from in First Contact when he says... that's he talks about it. He thought about
fraction of a second.
He thought about joining the Borg, and then he says for me that's a lifetime. And so for him to be in this place for 20 years without any real experiences, I get why he'd be tired, but I just you have the opportunity to go and have you could have turned the thing off, and who knows, they could always turn that machine back on, I guess, but I don't want them to do that now because they made such a big deal about turning it off.
Here's a funny thing. I both love and hate this in that scene where he's taking what amounts to be giant thumb drives out of the machine.
Yeah.
I hated it because I was just thinking, like, why are there like 3 giant thumb drives? Why is that like?
Yeah. And why does each thumb drive come out and he ages 30 years? I didn't understand that at all, man.
I don't think that was really pertinent. I think that it was just, hey, we are shutting him down. The thing that I love about it, though, is Star Trek V, when Sybok makes Bones relive killing his father, or Mercy killing his own dad. He basically has what looks like an 8-track, which seems to be like, I don't know, the timeline equivalent. It looks like sort of like a blinky light 8-track tape that he sticks in, and his dad dies, and then he like hits the button and pulls it out. So it reminded me of that, and for me there was sort of a technological and also like aesthetic continuity,
I guess,
that might not make sense, but that's what it reminded me of.
All right.
It's weird. I know it's silly, but that's what I don't know why they just couldn't flip it off, you know?
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, I even get like wanting to do something ceremonial there, something that takes a moment. Mm-hmm. But the whole big thumb drives and him aging 30 years as they pull each one out was weird. It was weird. It was weird. Anyway, I think we've said our piece. I'm not like off the show. I still love the show, and I love almost everything about the season. My 4 big complaints from the final season is just the death of Data had no purpose. I would have much rather him even just stay in that place and just him be like, yeah, I stay here. I think about my children. I watch them. I'll probably never see you again. We're only getting this chance to meet because you had to live here for a moment, you know, like something like that, and let him just go on. And he's just like experiencing what it's like to be like a ancestor. And maybe they even spin up, Saga in that thing, and that's just where androids go to die. It's like android heaven or something, you know? Mm-hmm. I could totally see that. It's just anyway, pointless death of Data, pointless so far robotic Picard. I hope they do more with it, and it sounds like they will. I didn't like the lack of focus on Soji in the last episode, and then the out of nowhere relationship between Seven and Raffi.
Do you know why they did that relationship with Soji and Raffi?
No.
Jerry Ryan and Michelle Hurd and the writers all came together and decided they had like a great moment of chemistry in Stardust City Rag in one scene. And they thought it might be an interesting idea to explore that. So they set it up so that after the time shift, we don't know how long has taken place in between, you know, Picard dying and becoming the Golem and him getting back on the ship. Some, you know, unknown amount of time has transpired. And we see that something has developed between those two with a promise for something in season 2. See,
I didn't even take there was any time because they were talking about getting Sung in that body before these destroyers came. Mm-hmm. So they were ready to move Sung into that body. Like, it seemed like they were going to do it within a matter of hours. So when Picard gets downloaded, to me, it didn't seem like there was any time delay there. But
yeah, during a Q&A, someone asked Michael Chabon how much time had elapsed, and he said, enough time to tie up loose ends.
Right. Yeah. That's classic storytelling right there. Just leave some of those time things ambiguous. Yeah. And I'm fine with that, but that doesn't give me enough... like jumping forward in time doesn't give me a reason to think that the Raffi and Seven thing makes sense. Like, them holding hands was just a little too far for me. It's just, I mean, they've done such a good job with making the relationship with Rios and Jurati to me. They've developed it in like asymmetrical ways, but like in a way that I've enjoyed. And with that one, they just like have them holding hands without. I don't remember them having a moment in Stardust City Rag, but I guess I just don't remember.
I don't remember that either. I couldn't, for the life of me, when we did the review, I couldn't even remember whether they had even had a scene together.
Yeah, I know. I could see them. They're sitting down there. They're doing shots. I could have just seen them doing shots together at the end, and maybe giving each other a look or something. Like just holding hands just seems so tender that it just seemed out of place for the two characters. At least for Seven, who I don't know. She's had a hard time getting to know anybody, or like considering anybody as part of her tribe or whatever, you know?
Right.
It just didn't seem to fit her character and who knows, maybe it is just like the Rios and Jurati thing, that maybe they're just having something physical and then we'll see that develop later. But I don't know. I really hated it though. Throwing it in there at the end. I'm way more open knowing that it's going to be more deeply explored in season 2. Like there is I halfway joked that it was like, man, Seven keeps getting like these like random weird relationships like out of nowhere in the final episode. But there is a difference between what happened in Voyager and what happened here, because we have the promise of a season 2 here. Yeah. It's true, but I can only judge what they did on what they did, not what they're gonna do.
Right. That's not entirely true.
Sure. I mean, you get a little different feel when you know there's more coming, but like I don't know what they're gonna do with next season. I just know that they did something here that felt really weird and rushed.
Give us a look. Don't give us a full-blown relationship yet.
Yeah. Like the peck that Jurati and Rios had at the end felt like, oh yeah, that feels right. That feels like about where they are. What did you think about the overall story of this season?
It was needlessly convoluted and it dragged. But ultimately it kept me engaged.
Yeah.
Like, no pun intended. Like I looked forward to every episode, even though it did drag. I don't mind slow pacing. I did get a little frustrated sometimes because I felt like it was so convoluted and there was so much alien babble. Not even techno babble, just like so many just like alien names and stuff that were just like thrown at me.
You're talking about with the Romulan
yeah, like the Romulans names and like the people on Free Cloud and like all the different factions, and it's just like, wait, what?
Okay. Yeah.
What's happening now?
I think to me that's just good world building for the most part. I thought you meant like the Romulan all the destroyer mythos. That's what came to mind when you were talking about that.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. Like we have not known the Romulans to be specifically superstitious in any real regard, as far as I can recall. Like,
right. Well, this wasn't superstition. This was like history that they believed would repeat.
Yeah, or religion, or some sort. It seemed almost cultish.
Yeah, but it ended up being pretty accurate there. And which, by the way, I really liked. They explained the destroyer and the herald in the last episode, and I really liked that. There are two interpretations of that. Daj could obviously be the herald who went to Picard, and Soji could be the destroyer because she almost was. Or you've got Jana, who went forth in the like 10 years ago or whatever to the Ibn Majid and to Rios' ship and like heralded their existence, and then later Sutra, her sister, could have been the destroyer. I thought that was a neat parallels that like it's not real clear which is true.
Yeah.
That was neat.
Yeah, I liked all that. I don't know. I really liked the saga aspect of it. I like that they're not doing standalone episodes. I really like that they're embracing the eventual binge mentality.
Sure,
even if they are releasing it every week.
Although they're doing my favorite thing, which is a really good overarching story, but each episode feels like a story. Each episode has an arc. There's obviously Absolute Candor, all about Elnor. But really pretty much every episode has the Stardust City Rag is like a nice little heist thing. Like it just all feels each episode feels very much like that episode is its own self-contained thing. And for the most part, they all have interesting arcs within those episodes that sort of develop the characters along. And it's a hard balance to strike. So many shows do it poorly. They either do too much on the individual episodes, they rely too much on, as you said, episodic storytelling, or they rely too heavily on the overarching thing, and then the episodes all kind of run together. None of these episodes feel like they run together to me. They all feel very intentional. I think if I sat here right here, I could probably at least name what happened in each episode.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody's listened to Steve Shives, but he articulated something that I was feeling and I didn't realize it. The first half of the season feels very slow, and then the last half of the season feels really rushed.
That's interesting. I didn't feel like this felt rushed. I felt like the last episode felt rushed. I don't think I felt like the rest of the season. Like Nepenthe felt very slow, which is in the last half.
Yeah, and Nepenthe is my favorite episode of the entire season.
I love Nepenthe, and I love, obviously, I love seeing Riker and Troy again. I really liked Kestra. Loved how they were portrayed, and I love seeing Riker at the end. I feel like it's really just the last episode, not to disagree with the great Steve Shives, who is awesome. And I think I heard him talk about that as well. I think that, because there's also the episode where Picard gets to finally meet Hugh. That one didn't seem rushed. All it is Picard shows up. Picard shows up, meets Soji, rescues her, and then jumps. Like that's the whole episode. Yeah. There's very little there, and I think that's the problem. Is this season? If they had introduced some of these things that they want to introduce in the final episode a little earlier, instead of making it all so mystery boxy.
Yeah, that's going to be my biggest issue, is that whenever a show does mystery box, I get worried because I know that there is probably almost no way they are going to resolve it in a way that's satisfactory. Yep. Because the whole time my brain is going, and then I'm talking to other people and their brains are going, and we're all concocting what wind up being way better stories than what they do.
Yeah. I will say this idea of what the admonition was and what it did and why it did it, that I never heard that theory. And I think it fit better than most other theories I heard. And I actually like it more than any of the other theories. I really like what the admonition ended up being. It created an automatic threat. It put everything on a clock. I loved the way they resolved the admonition in episode 9. And see, that's another one. So we're talking about the last half of the season and how it feels rushed, or Steve Shives says. But then episode 9 is another one. So that's 3 of the last 5. Yeah. Episode 9 is another one. They get to the planet, they meet the people, and then then the people do the that one felt very much like a classic Star Trek episode to me, or like the first half of one, where you've got something in your head, I'm gonna mind meld it out of you, and now we're gonna destroy all organic life. That's all that happened in that episode. There's a lot There's just a whole lot in that last episode, and I think it's mostly the Data stuff. Like, I think if they had left Data completely off of that last episode and focused on the story they've been telling me for 10 episodes, I think that last episode would have felt way better. Instead, they've spent 20 minutes in his little study, and I enjoyed those 20 minutes. It's really beautiful, some beautiful moments, but like, it's just not servicing the overall story that they've been telling me for 10 weeks.
Yeah. I think I wanted more. They could have taken away some of that and given it to, what happened to Narek afterwards, or, even like why some of the more of the reasoning for why Soji is behaving the way she is, because that's one of the things that sort of fell flat for me, is how she suddenly became like the destroyer. She's like, okay, I'm just gonna do this thing. I'm gonna open it up and let the things come through. Like, oh, damn, what? What?
Yeah. I hear you, but the thing is, we don't know Soji. Like, she does not trust Picard. She doesn't really trust anybody. I mean, just 3 episodes ago on Nepenthe, she was talking about how, she didn't trust any of them. And like, I don't think that Soji was ever really that much of a good guy, especially once we know that she's got all this programming undergirding herself that is like, seems like it's a different person. And then of course you had Sutra, who killed Saga just to create that feeling in Soji, So, yeah. So I think that she was just caught up in the moment and, wanted to save her people and was willing to kill all organic life to do it, which is quite a bad term. But if you feel like it's the only thing you can do, they do really have her wrestle with it, with that whole conversation of the logic of sacrifice, which I love. I love that scene.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good scene.
Let's see. And it looks like we're probably not going to get to the news and things today, fine. Which is totally fine. I think we this is the episode we promised anyway to get to was a wrap up of season 1, and we have done that and talked for an hour almost on just the wrap up of season 1. So I'm fine with that. I'm
a little sad we talked so much about the finale again.
Yeah, I really didn't mean to. And I feel like we've explored other things though.
I do want to mention, like, there are little things that aggravate me that I've talked about, like, the Constitution class Enterprise being the Discovery version, sure. The ignoring Data's aging chip that they mentioned in that one episode. But the thing is like, I am so appreciative of all. They've taken so much great care to like bring in other things, like. And I've just been poring over Easter eggs and stuff. And here are a couple of things. Here is like in Voyager, in the episode Timeless, where Harry Kim comes back from the future, he mentions a wrecked Borg cube that's stranded in the Beta Quadrant.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's really amazing.
Like, just little things like that. By the way, did you catch that? Did we talk about this? That the version of Blue Skies that Data is hearing as he's dying is actually the actress who plays Soji.
We did not talk about it, but I heard about it after our episode. Yeah.
Yeah, that just makes me like that scene a lot more.
Me too. And to me, it makes me think that it's very possible that he had met his daughters. Like, it's very possible in the world of the show, he is hearing his daughter sing to him. Yeah.
And here's the thing. The motif that plays from the moment we see the Romulan reclamation site is a musical paraphrase of the incidental music from Balance of Terror, the first TOS episode with the Romulans.
Yes, like, I'd seen that. That's so good.
That kind of stuff is just... Oh, man, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
And I saw this a while ago, and I felt stupid because I didn't know it. Stardust City Rag. The whole time I'm saying like Free Cloud, Stardust. That all sounds so right. It's because the whole episode was like a big reference to David Bowie. Like Free Cloud is a reference to Wild-Eyed Boy from Free Cloud, and the song, and Stardust City, obviously Ziggy Stardust. Picard's eye patch, like David Bowie wore an eye patch on all the Ziggy Stardust stuff.
That's neat, man. Yeah.
Like they specifically like went after that.
That's real fun.
Dude, they mentioned the Kazenti and Nepenthe. It was the first time they ever mentioned that species in the live action episode. They were in an animated series episode called The Slaver Weapon, and Michael Chabon went to contact Larry Niven, who's, you know, famed sci-fi writer, who used the Kazenti in his own works, and you know, asked to make sure that it was approved, but the freaking Kazenti, like that was like the one episode of animated series where everyone was like, that's really not canon. That can't be canon, because if Kazenti are here, nah, man, alternate universe. They're in the Star Trek universe and in Larry Niven's universe. I don't know. That's just really cool.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the Kazenti, but that's neat.
Michael Chabon has said that Narek disappears from the narrative because they had a scene and they decided that the show worked better without that scene really being in there. And he was like, I guess it's not. It wasn't unimportant because everyone was like, what happened to Narek?
It's funny. I didn't notice, I don't think. What do you think of the fact that Narek and Jurati and all these the Zhat Vash are on this mission to stop the destroyer, and they were kind of right? Like
I dig it. I'm fine with it.
I dig it too. I really dig it too. It actually. So yeah, here's my fifth big problem with Star Trek Picard season finale is it kind of pisses me off that Picard does everything he can to stop the Romulans before he does everything he can to stop Soji. Like it really bothers me because it's like a needs of the many thing, right? Like there's two big things happening, two big like genocidal things happening. One is going to destroy a small group of people that we care about, and one is going to destroy all life in the universe. And he decides to gamble on the fact that this girl he barely knows is going to make the right decision if he makes the decision to save her, which is a beautiful idea. I love it. I love it. I love it. As an ideal. And I mean, that's what Picard is. It's all about ideals. Yeah. And so I'm okay with it from that perspective, but from a purely practical, like that is not a decision Sisko ever would have made. You know what I mean?
I think Picard would maybe think there's no guarantee that these creatures are even out there. And if they are, there's no guarantee that an evolved form of synthetic life would be malevolent.
I disagree. For one thing, they build the tower and the portal is open. Like the portal is opening to whatever world is supposed to bring these destroyers while Picard is up there, creating extra ships and stuff to stall the Romulan fleet.
It's been 200,000 years. We don't know what they've evolved into.
Well, no,
Michael Chabon has now hinted at they may have de-evolved.
Right. Well, they say specifically they exist outside of time.
Right.
So it's not that they've evolved. They just are some sort of alliance of AIs that exist outside of time, which I love the idea of, and I wanted to know more. Like I much would have rather an episode where we actually meet these beings and Soji has to try to convince them to save organic life, you know?
Yeah, I think like Chabon said that in the early drafts they were actually called the Alterity, and there was more there, and that just wound up not happening because they were just like, no, let's not do that. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more from them, but Chabon actually specifically stated that 200,000 years have passed for those creatures, so they may have devolved, like whether they existed outside of space-time as we know it or not.
Interesting. So that's to me that's against what the episode says, but yeah, that's fine, I guess. I mean, any time can pass for them as they want, but according to what according to the admonition, they exist outside of time. But
And there might be something interesting there if you want to try and stretch, like, because it seemed rather devolved, it's like they seemed just like monsters.
By the way, did you catch any of the stuff, the Mass Effect stuff going around the internet?
No, I don't know what that is.
Mass Effect's a video game, and apparently
I know it is, but I don't know what it is. Like, I'm just, I don't
apparently
know
this is the plot of Mass Effect.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I know they've had problems with Discovery.
Season 1.
I know. And it's hard because there's so many people out making sci-fi that it's hard to come up with a completely original idea. And I really thought this one was original. And then I watched a guy do a breakdown video of why Picard is basically Mass Effect. Mm-hmm. And there's Mass Effect is a story about organic life is created. It creates AI. AI eventually calls upon some sort of thing to destroy it, and it's a cycle that they're always going through. Mm-hmm. It's happened multiple times in the history of the world of Mass Effect, and the whole plot of this, I guess they're at that tipping point again, and the characters are trying to stop it.
There's nothing. There's nothing. Nothing new under the sun. Because based on what you just said to me, sounds like the Matrix.
No, yeah. That's true.
You get back to, Greek tragedies, Greek philosophy, Greek mythology, all of that stuff. It always involves like the Greek gods created us and we eventually kill the Greek gods to some degree. Like,
yeah. But it's a little different when you're talking about specifically sentient AI and a force of sentient AI existing outside of time that is called down by the new AI to destroy the organic life. Like that, that's pretty similar.
It is.
So it's just a concept. I mean, they're doing different stories with it, but yeah, it does sound like that concept has been used in Mass Effect, which I've never played. So,
well, hey, you can't say it's the same writers because pretty much every writer on Discovery was fired.
Yeah,
or not every one of them, but they've had some big tumultuous turnarounds there.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Elnor at all.
No, we haven't.
What do you think about Elnor?
He's fine. He's fun to watch, and
he is fun to watch.
I like his. It's weird because I liked his relationship with Picard, and then subsequently I liked his relationship with Hugh, however brief we had it, and then I really liked how he sort of bonded to Seven. And he was like new Icheb.
Yeah, I liked that too.
I liked all of that.
I was very disappointed with Elnor, just because I really love Absolute Candor. It's one of my favorite episodes of this series, and I love the introduction of Elnor. I love this male nun Romulan warrior, that tells the truth. Like I just loved all that. And the whole, he tells the truth about everything thing. I didn't really like that, like he was raised that way, right? That's his religion in a way. And then they only really ever used it as a joke instead of really using it as this is a difference between us. Like when they introduced that idea, I was really hoping that they would use it like they use Spock and how he thinks about logic and emotion. And I was like, ooh, that's an interesting cultural concept. And what does it mean to have a guy who does not believe in secrets, especially when you're on all these missions and stuff? Like, how will his ethos combine with the other characters? And then they only ever used it to make him seem sort of naive and as a joke. And I was disappointed in that. I do like all the character stuff they've done. I like all the relationships he's built, but I thought he was going to be a deeper character, I guess. And so far, he's been, to me, mostly a child, which, I know that's where his character started, but at the end of Absolute Candor, he's a man now, he still has a lot of issues with Picard, but he should be. Yeah, he's a full-grown man, and he kind of just never. They use his, those nuns, the ones who believe in absolute candor. they don't seem childlike to me. They seem blunt. And I guess Elnor kind of comes off as like emotionally unstable because he's always wearing his emotions on his sleeve. He's like, I am hurt. And he starts crying and stuff like, which is, I don't mind that, but I guess I mind that it only ever feels like a weakness instead of a strength, which clearly these Kowat Malat, what are they called?
I don't remember.
I can't ever remember Elnor's sex name, but what Kowat Malat? I don't know. Anyway, I'm embarrassing myself.
And me.
Well, that was my goal.
Always.
But no, I really just wish that they had made it a little more balanced. I don't like it when any character is treated like, especially when their cultural differences are treated purely for jokes. Like Spock's logic is often treated for jokes, you know? And McCoy's over emotionality is often treated as a joke, but it's also a plot point often and like a real disagreements that they have. And I never saw that from Elnor, and maybe they'll continue to do that in the future, but this season they did not do a good job of fleshing out his looking at the world. And it kind of felt like with Stardust City Rag that they were going like, okay, we just met you. We know your whole thing is telling the truth all the time. Now let's all go lie. And we need to teach this kid to lie. They don't make him lie. They actually say, just be yourself and just don't talk. But I kind of wanted him to like, you know, he's been trained in this whole way of telling the truth all the time. I kind of wanted him to be like, well, why don't you just do this? Like, you know, why are we doing it this way? Why aren't we just going in and telling them the truth?
Right.
But he doesn't do that. He just kind of acts like a child and uses lots of, he's just always the punchline. Anyway, I've said my piece.
I don't really feel like I never saw him as a punchline.
I don't even mean that in a negative way. Almost everything he says that's like an absolute candor thing is a joke. Like when he goes like, I get it. We're lying. Like, it's just like, it's not like he can't understand what a lie is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To me, he felt like, you know, a still relatively young man who he's basically lived his entire life, very sheltered life in, you know, the world that was the invention of lying, if you've seen that movie.
Yes.
And now suddenly he's like, I don't know, like, I'm fine with it being used for somewhat comedic beats.
Me too.
I really hope that it expands. Like, I want him to secretly start holding things back and lying, and for him to wrestle with that and worry that the world has corrupted him. But he's, you know, still, for the most part, aside from lopping people's heads off, he's fairly innocent. And I really like that. I like that he hasn't seen the world and that he is responding to all of these things through the eyes of a very honest child. And I think that gives a lot of room for him growing later in the series. So it didn't bother me at all. I didn't take any issue with any of that.
Yeah, I hear you. It just as what you said. I just want them to do more with it, and they have time. But it's like Stardust City Rag is his second episode, and like, and they are. It is. They're highlighting the fact that he's different, but almost every line he says is a laugh line. And like, he's not the joke. The joke, I mean, he kind of is. I don't know.
I would say most of that episode is a laugh line to offset the horrible violence and darkness of Seven and her storyline. Yeah. Like, Picard is just over the top as crap.
I love Picard in that.
Oh, I absolutely do. I just feel
he doesn't feel like Picard though. In that episode, he feels like Patrick Stewart.
Well, that just happens, you know. At some point in the last few Star Trek movies, especially the 2009 stuff, it didn't even feel like Spock. That was just Leonard Nimoy having some fun.
Yeah. I think you're right. I don't love it, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't necessarily love it, but you look at Generations. Captain Kirk was not in that movie. That was Bill Shatner.
Generations. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right.
At some point, these actors just become the characters. Like Troy, like Marina Sirtis has not played Troy since Generations.
Although
maybe
I think
First Contact.
In this, she was a much better counselor in this than she has been in anything else.
I agree, but she lost her accent a long time ago. Like she just stopped playing Deanna Troy. She just started playing Marina Sirtis.
Yeah, kind of hate that. But I do think that he is Patrick Stewart is mostly playing Picard in most of this. Well, you know what? Never mind. I take it all back because I just remembered. So what him becoming that pirate Frenchman
yeah,
felt like a thing an actor would do instead of a thing that Captain Picard would do. But now I'm remembering the episodes of TNG where he was like all the holodeck where he's like actually doing Shakespeare, and I'm remembering, oh, that is part of the Picard character. Maybe because it's part of Patrick Stewart's character, but still, yeah, I take it back. That does kind of fit with other stuff we've seen.
Oh yeah, I mean Picard he's a fan of the arts, man.
Yeah, and it actually fit me,
I will agree that
well,
it did seem like it was just Patrick Stewart having some fun.
Yeah, it just felt like an actor thing to do. Like, be like, you don't like my character that I'm playing. Like, it seems like that's never been a Picard thing. But now I'm remembering him being on the holodeck trying to read Shakespeare. I'm like, yeah, maybe he would do that.
I'll tell you what it really felt like.
What's that?
It felt like something they would do in like Insurrection or Nemesis, like those like weird attempts at humor that they would just kind of put forward. Like, here's Picard saying a thing that's very not Picard. Mm-hmm. Isn't it funny? Mm-hmm. Like, remember when he called Riker Mr. Troy? That's sexist, but it's funny. Like, just...
yeah. Yes, indeedy.
So apparently they shot a scene that had Ramda and the other XBs starting to form a community with the synths.
Interesting.
Under the auspices of Sung, and then they just couldn't find a place for it that worked. And they felt like losing it did not hurt too much. So they cut it out.
Interesting. I wonder if they will go there in the future. Because, yeah, it is strange. You know, the artifact is right there on the planet with them now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's about all I got. You got anything else you want to touch on before we... I said something today and I really liked it and I wanted to say it again, but it would just be like a direct quote of myself from earlier today. So I was talking on the Altered Carbon cast that we were doing on Bingers Assemble, and I was like, anything else you want to talk about before we shuffle off this podcast coil? I just really liked it.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think maybe that's my new phrase.
I like it. I do want to express appreciation for. There was a scene where Narek mentioned that he referred to a time long before our ancestors first arrived on Vulcan, and they haven't really played with that at all in Star Trek. But that is a direct reference to a reference that was made in the original series Return to Tomorrow that basically said that there was a distinct possibility that the Vulcans and, you know, by extension, the Romulans were interstellar colonists that settled on Vulcan.
Okay.
I just think that's like a very particular piece of canon to honor and reference.
Yeah, that's neat.
So that's really cool. Michael Chabon was asked a bunch about season 2, and he said he was asked if he did like a Q&A, and they asked if season 2 would go deeper into the Romulan rescue mission, and he said in a way. And they said, does Girardi get away scot-free for the Bruce Maddox murders? It seems like she was going to get arrested. And Siobhan said, well, I mean, in fairness, she hasn't had a chance to turn herself in yet. She will put herself in the hands of the law. And that's really cool. They're going to, according to him, delve into backlash from Federation citizens over the lift of the synth ban. He does say that the Seven Raffi relationship is going to be explored in season 2. He said, they asked if Seven will stay on the crew next season. He says, I want to say yes, but people keep telling me not to. So no. We don't have a crew per se. We have a cast of characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, she'll be there.
She'll be around.
Someone wrote, will we see cameos from TNG, DS9, and Voyager in season 2? I would love to see Janeway. And Siobhan wrote, I know. Someone asked him who would he like to see from DS9 show up on La Serena, and he says, I'd love to check in on Garrick and Bashir. They're always so much fun to hang out with. Absolutely.
Yes.
And O'Brien. Make it O'Brien. Please.
Yeah, for sure. I would love O'Brien, but Garrick and Bashir are great calls. If you're going to pick two, they're a really good choice. I want DS9 continues. I really want Star Trek, I don't know what I want. I just want more of those characters. I want to know what happens with with Cisco. I want to know when he comes back. I want to know all of it. And I know it's a beautiful ending to the show, and it's fine if they never touch on it again, but I'd love to see what Kira's doing. All of them. All of them.
There are certain ones I would be like. Obviously, we've seen what happens to Worf.
Yeah.
We've seen him post DS9 is all I mean. I would love to see O'Brien. We know he goes to be a professor. I want to see Bashir. I'd like to see Ezri. Definitely want to see Kira.
Or any Dax. It could be a new Dax.
It could be a new Dax. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be okay with that too. I think it'd be cool if we got both somehow. Like we got like a new Dax, and then like we see Ezri and like her dealing with the fact that she no longer has the symbiote. That'd be really cool. Just, there are any number of avenues that you could go down, and I would love to see all of that. But I am an avid Deep Space Nine advocate, and just anything they give me from that show.
And of course, I want to see Quark.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the fact that he's franchised and is doing well. I'm happy with.
Some interview with somebody say that he was on Free Cloud. Like that was his bar now, instead of it being a franchise. And I don't know where I heard that.
Well, I mean, he might be. I mean, that large reptilian creature
said Quark spoke highly of him.
Yeah, did mention Mr. Quark.
It was crazy that they had 2 Quark mentions in one episode. It's interesting. Well,
I mean, I guess, that's the simplest explanation is that maybe he hasn't franchised out. Maybe that's just his bar now.
Yeah, maybe just, whatever's going on in DS9, he's now there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be super cool. I'd watch a Stardust City show.
Yeah, I'll watch, like an Free Cloud, the series.
Underworld crime of Free Cloud, and Quark's like a regular who's just trying to keep. He's got that like little bit of Odo in the back of his head who like really wants to keep the peace and the safety of the people, but like he's still trying to live in a world of the underworld crime syndicates and stuff. Yeah, that could be fun, man.
I would be down with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Breaking Quark.
I would watch the hell out of that. But I don't want it to be like a Judith and Garfield Reeve Stevens Shatner book. Like, I don't want it to be like, here's Quark, and now we've got 7 of 9 interacting with Quark, and also for some reason Picard is there, and also like every Deep Space Nine character shows up out of the blue. And
7 of 9 needs to get her some high quality beaming technology so she can just transwarp beaming so she can be on every show.
At least until justice is had for Voyager.
Oh man, Seven travels the galaxy looking for justice for Voyager. Do you mean justice for Voyager the series or Voyager the ship?
That just justice for Jerry Ryan of having to put up with being on that show.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
That's what I mean.
All right, well, I think that's about all for us, right?
Yeah, I gotta pee real bad,
and I gotta go to bed. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. I'm doing an Altered Carbon watch right now on Bingers Assemble So if you're a sci-fi fan, if you've seen that show or if you haven't, we just watched episode 9 this morning. That'll be posted tomorrow, and we're working our way through season 1 and season 2 of Altered Carbon, and it's a great show, very adult. But if you're okay with that, check it out. So to end the show, this is going to be the final one for at least a while. This is the last of the Picard songs. This was actually super challenging, interesting project because I got to thinking about the Picard, and I took a week off from writing Picard songs, and I wrote a silly rap song. And while I was doing that, I really was turning it over in my head what I was going to write about with this episode. And it really felt right to just stick with the main storyline and the idea that Picard is saying he wants to save Soji so she can save him. And that's the reason we exist, is to save each other. And that also connected for me into like the current moment we're in with COVID-19 and everybody having to do their best to kind of help our society continue to exist and work together to save as many lives as possible with all these quarantines and social distancing and flattening the curve and all this stuff. And so I wrote a song that inspired by that called Save Each Other. And it's kind of about that. It's about the reason we're here. And what I really like about it is it's kind of a double meaning. It says we can save each other. It's the reason we're here. And that's what Picard says. And when he says it, he says it in the way that he means it's the reason we exist. It's our purpose. But I also kind of feel like it's how we have persisted as a society and as a race of humans, you know? And because we save each other, we work together, we're a team. And that's how we've been able to stick around. And it's like it's both why we're here as our purpose, but it's also why we're here. Like, it's why we've made it this far, so let's keep doing it, you know. So yeah, this song's called Save Each Other. Hope y'all dig it. Last one for a while.
For the last time. It's a real earworm. I haven't heard it. I don't know.
yeah, you haven't heard it yet, and no one's heard it yet. Actually, I played it on the live stream the other day. I was Trent Morris. He was on the live stream, one of our listeners, and he was like, "Hey, you haven't posted the last Picard song yet." And I was like, "That's just nice that you care. Thank you for noticing." And I was like, "Well, I haven't recorded it yet, and I don't really know how to play it, but I just wrote it today, and I played it on a live stream. It was really fun. Just like I wrote this song this morning, and I just played it on the live stream, acoustic, and yeah, it was neat."
How did he receive it?
He seemed like he said it's very of the moment, I think is how he responded. But yeah, a lot of other people commented later to me directly, and they were like, "Hey, I heard the 10th Picard song, cool." And I was like, "Oh, neat. People have been paying attention. That's really cool." Because
that's awesome.
I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm toiling in isolation, especially in this literal isolation that we're all in now.
Yeah. Speaking of the pandemic, Patrick Stewart says one thing they're not going to do for season 2 is a pandemic storyline.
Yeah, I heard that.
Which I think I'm okay with that. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to get into that. Let's do the show that you were wanting to do.
Yeah.
Originally. Let's not do Enterprise season 3 9/11.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm cool with that.
You don't want to force it.
Yeah, you don't want to force it. Although I love the Xindi stuff.
I enjoy it too. It was so on the nose.
It was very on the nose, very on the San Francisco. All right.
And through Florida.
What now?
And through Florida.
And through Florida? Did it?
Yeah.
I thought it hit San Francisco. Did it not?
Yeah, but it cut a swath through the entire Earth. That Xindi weapon. It killed Tripp's sister in Florida.
Wow, I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
all
man.
right, well, guys, this is save each other. Don't use Xindi weapons. Save each other instead. Peace. Joel Untrue.
Live long and prosper.
We are different, you and I. And there's a tension that's hard to hide. This world has taught me to take what's mine. But faced with this moment, can we leave that behind and save each other? That's why we're here. It's so easy to hate each other and give in to fear. But it's the only thing I know at the bottom of my soul, that we can save each other. That's why we're here. I'll have your back, will you have mine? We'll get this world on track by our powers combined. We could walk through this world with selfish hearts, but we'll only see what we can be when we start to save each other. That's why we're here. It's so easy to hate each other and give in to fear. But it's the only thing I know at the bottom of my soul, that we can save each other. That's why we're here. We like to think that we're all self-made, that we can make it on our own. That's not the way we've made it to this day. No man survives alone. We can save each other. That's why we're here. We can save each other. That's why we're here. It's so easy to hate each other and give in to fear. It's the only thing I know at the bottom of my soul, that we can save each other. That's why we're here. We can save each other. That's why we're here. Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.